can't even remember now, but I think they'd dropped the ball, or so yeah, I think that was maybe the Minicello thing or something. So we got the ball back, and the minutes were ticking down, and it felt like we were going to hold out with the 2 points left, and then that mistake happened, and Philbin kicked it through and dived on it, and then it was just euphoria, getting it like a bit like the Lynham try against Saints in the semi-final last year, it was just that, just everybody just up on their feet. I got hit in the head with a pint pot full of beer. I was absolutely. It was just everything. It just all went off, and it was brilliant. Then that's what you go to the games for, isn't it?
Yeah, those moments where victory's been sealed after you've had your nerves shredded. They're what I call hug a stranger moments. You're high fiving and hugging everyone, no matter who they are.
yeah, but it was brilliant. And I felt bad for the Hull fans, I'd seen a lot of Hull fans walking to the stadium. They were all it was all really lovely, sort of spirited and everything. So
apart from the one particular Hull fan who released his racist tendencies to a joke.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully that gets dealt with swiftly and robustly.
That's obviously he's just the fact that he's a Hull fan is a coincidence.
Yeah.
He's just there's knobheads everywhere, isn't there?
Exactly.
No, I mean,
go on, Al.
So no, I just wanted to say, and this is it's not just because Leigh's on the call, but I have to say I was slightly towards the wire end, so I'm a little bit biased in terms of numbers and also noise, but I think I have to say, your lot, Leigh, were making an absolute racket and really supporting your team, even though ultimately you may have been, kind of squeaky bum time. Yeah. Your lot were really into it and really making the noise and really supporting your team. And to me, you were out singing FC's fans, and to me, you were really pushing the team forward. So I think that really... It was something that I don't often comment about the noise that a team makes, but for me it was a massive thing.
I do want to balance that off with, there was a couple of renditions during the game of Old Faithful that were quite spine tingling as well. So I thought it was a really good battle between the fans, as it was a good battle between the teams. But definitely the best team in this game won. That's for certain.
Yes, can't argue with that.
Well, I won't argue either.
Excellent. Let's talk about who your opponents are going to be then in the Challenge Cup final. As the second semi-final saw league leaders of the Super League, St Helens, take on also Rans in the Championship, Halifax. And it was a very surprising 8-2 at half-time, and only just 8-2 at half-time to the Saints. It finished 26-2. Chris Kendall was the referee, but we've got some stats, and then we'll all talk about the great spirit that Halifax showed. James Roby with a try, 47 tackles, 124 metres. Tommy Makinson, 196 metres. Mark Percival, 211 metres and 3 clean breaks. Luke Thompson, 141 metres. The only person who sort of hit the benchmarks we're looking for Halifax in terms of stats was James Saltonstall, 106 metres, but that by no means tells the full story of this Halifax performance, does it? Leigh, do you want to give us the first of the fan views on this one?
Yep. So Paul O'Brien, 1976, says Halifax can hold their heads high after a great performance against the Super League leaders.
Yeah, and Carsten says, what a game by the fax machines. They showed which magic the cup can bring, and they gave everything. Okay, Saints won in the end, but they had to work hard for it and needed the genius of Roby to be dominant.
Is the fax machines their new nickname?
No, they're still the Blue Sox to us. Then they will be forever.
They'll always be the Blue Sox.
Long live the Blue
behind
Sox.
The times.
but I have to say, I do like the fax machines. I think that's
a small but up on their feet the whole time during the game band of Halifax supporters were there for this one, and they were absolutely treated to a brilliant effort from their team, but also some really fun moments. I mean, the short kickoff to start the game. How brilliant was that?
That was unbelievable. That was it. That set the tone, didn't it? I think that nobody was expecting it, and straight off the kick-off, they got possession, and it was, and then everybody was bouncing. Everybody was really excited for it, and it really set the tone for the match for me.
I think each one of those short kick-offs, because they won two. I think they won 3 out of the 4 they tried, didn't they?
You did, yeah.
Every one of those kept 1,000 people in the stands because everyone was sort of, I'll hang on till half time. I'll hang on till it's whilst facts are still being competitive, and they were being competitive. Definitely, but they were also putting in a few moments of joy for us with those kind of things. And if they didn't keep kicking out on the full, they might have done better in field position as well.
Yeah, it is those the fine margins, aren't there, between Super League and the Championship? Sometimes they're all, a lot of them are the same players that have come up together. And it's just those little tiny extra bits of quality and fitness and the difference in the end. But the heart's all there. It was great. I was enthralled by it.
It did. You're right. It did sort of single out some players that are great for 10 minutes in this kind of intensity, but maybe can't last the half an hour that they could last at the Championship in terms of some of the Halifax forwards. But the intensity that they were able to play with for most of this game was a delight, an absolute pleasure. You're a Championship fan, not necessarily a Halifax fan, Alan, but how did it make you feel watching this one?
I'm going to put a counter argument to this one, because I have to say, having watched this back and kind of having read all the praise, I understand the praise because everyone expected it to be like 70-0 or whatever. I get that, but I do have this sense of slight regret that it felt like they were playing to a very limited set of rules. So in terms of so what they decided was they were going to try to get the kickoffs back, right? That's fine. That's it's a relatively low risk play, but they had. So the first ball that they recovered, they had 3 play the balls in Saints' 20. They didn't have a single other play the ball in the Saints 20 until the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah,
there were lots of kicks from their own kind of 30 or 40, which were there to try to just get rid of the ball ultimately. So I felt a bit disappointed. It felt like a game plan to limit their losses rather than actually to even give themselves a chance of getting over the line. And having seen them in the quarterfinal, and obviously seen them a fair amount other than that, because I saw them in the round before as well, I think they have the ability to be better than that. So I felt a bit disappointed, even though ultimately the final difference between the teams is flattering to them, if that makes sense. I felt like they hadn't.
I understand what you mean.
Given everything that they potentially could.
Part of the issues there was it did feel a little bit like every time they got to Saints' 30, that's when they'd make their errors.
They did knock on a huge amount.
Advantage of Saints' mistakes, did they? Unfortunately, no. Because they kept making their own mistakes too. I think that plays into what you're saying. And in their own half, they were just trying not to make mistakes, but then a few times they made mistakes on the kicks, didn't they? It just, I do get what you're saying, but they're playing against a team that most teams have struggled to defend on their own goal line, and we've not seen anyone manage to actually stop Tommy Makinson score one of those flying finishes this season or over the last 4 or 5 seasons. So Steve Tyra's effort to stop him was fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I don't want to denigrate the effort at all. It's just that sense of slight regret that ultimately, when they look back on it, will they feel that they kind of did everything that they potentially could do in the game? I think from Saints' point of view, certainly in the first 15, 20 minutes and I suppose it got worse as it went along, really. There was a sense of real tension, I felt,
yes,
both from the stands and on the pitch as well.
I think the
all those losing semi-finals, and it was a bit of a, what can I say? The Saints couldn't win in this. Obviously, they could win the game, but even if they win by 70, everyone would be like, "Oh, well, we expected you to do that." So they were on a slight no-winning kind of circumstance, and they've got a terrible record in semi-finals. So,
well, I wanted to come
the fact that they're taking,
because
what's that?
I'd say this was half a choke. I'd be worried if I was a Saints fan. I'd say this was half a choke because they really didn't deliver their best stuff. They did a lot of the things they've been doing. Makinson made meters, Thompson made meters, looked powerful. They got the ball moving around, but they were not anywhere near their best. They were thrown off by some of the stuff that Halifax were doing, I think, and I'd say it was half a choke. and I wonder if that gets half a bite from anyone, but I
thought Roby was good. What did you think about Roby's performance? He's just back from injury as well, isn't he, or an operation?
Yeah, I think he came back quicker than I was expecting to. He was outstanding in this game, wasn't he? And he scored that first try. That's one of the things Halifax will be disappointed with. They did so much good defending, but at least 3 of the 4, maybe all of the 4 tries that Saints scored, certainly the first 3, that they'll be really gutted with themselves over, even though Dom Peru shouldn't have been a try because he dropped it. But
yeah, he did.
But whatever.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. He did drop that. Yeah.
They were all kind of softish, but you can't take it away from Roby, can you? Like you say, Leigh. I know he's your favourite. Is certainly one of my favourites as well. I agree. I thought he was outstanding. He was definitely the player of the match in this one.
Yeah. I agree.
Without question.
Did he get the player of the match? I've not. I assume he did, but he was. He was a real difference maker, and because I'm always watching out for when Thompson and Walmsley come on for that second stint. That's when they really sort of power through teams, isn't it? And you've got to have a couple of scores on them to be able to keep them back. But they didn't seem to, although they did sort of put tries, and in the end, it didn't feel like they were as effective as I was expecting them to be. I thought they'd really steamroller over them, and they didn't. So
I think Abel was good off the bench. He sort of was. I think he was more ready for the fight than maybe some of the other players. Some of these younger players have probably never played against a lower league opposition in a Saints shirt, and it's probably there was probably some different stuff going on than what they're necessarily used to. A player who disappointed me for Saints was Johnny Lomax, but that's just because of how the high standards. He's been the best player in Super League over the last month, I'd say, and putting him back at fullback, I think he was easier to defend because he was popping up on the end of a structure rather than kind of finding his own space within the game like he has been doing. So he was less of a threat, even though he did manage to score a try that Halifax will be gutted with because they'd stood up Danny Richardson, gave him no options really, and then switched off on a dummy runner, and Lomax was able to walk in. But I was a little bit disappointed with how that worked out with Farge, Richardson in the halves with Lomax at fullback. But I'm sure Lachlan Coote will be back to see if Justin Holbrook can end his stay there more pleasantly than he ended his time last year.
Yeah. What do you think of the Saints fans? Obviously, you said they were like a bit sort of muted because potentially they were worried they were going to choke again. But they seem pretty much every Saints fan that I know stayed away because they all said that they were saving their money for the final, but they probably thought they might choke as well. But there seemed to be
good numbers. There seemed to be fairly good numbers. I would say. There was a couple of times where they really started singing, and that's what made you know that they were in a game.
Yeah.
Just like the players, they celebrated some of the tries like with such excitement and vigour that you knew they were in a game that none of us really expected them to be, and that's why I'm saying it's half a choke because they didn't they didn't steamroller the opposition like they were expected to, and like Alan says, it wasn't like Fax were like testing them or anything like that. They were just working